Chiefs Ravens on Sunday afternoon. Both teams are going to need a win, and we're going to talk a lot about it today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. Thank you for joining us today on Locked On Chiefs. A lot to talk about. A huge game up against the Baltimore Ravens. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Lot to talk about with this Ravens game coming up. Obviously, Lamar Jackson going to be a big concern that we're going to have to talk about. Derrick Henry as well. We're going to talk about some of the wide receivers and some of what can be available for this Ravens game coming up a little bit later. But the playmakers need some more looks. We're going to get into that here in just a moment. I am joined by Ryan Tracy, my partner from RGR Football and Rogue Analytics. I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. This game, while when we started looking at the schedule, I will say I didn't feel great about the Ravens game just because of the way that they always seem to play out. But you look at how the season has gone so far for Kansas City. They kind of let one go against the Chargers a bit. They also let one go against the Eagles. Now they're in a situation where they're 1-2, and you feel like this is not necessarily a must-win game, but it's a game that they probably need, especially when you start looking at playoff seeding.
It certainly is. And when you compare the two teams, like I'm looking at offensive success rate and total EPA and things. Baltimore Ravens, like percentage-wise, are close, but the effectiveness of their offense is still very much out in front of the Chiefs at this point. But they've had a rough start as well. There's a lot of drama in both towns. So I think the question is going to be who can get it right and who can get their playmakers back involved the most. Chiefs had some defensive playmakers. This is a different thing. And I think I was still a little disappointed in the pass rush last week against the Giants. I would have liked to see more, but this is a much more rush to contain Lamar pass rush. Like this plays into what George Karlaftis does well opposite Chris Jones. It is going to be those longer effort plays so that you don't flush him early and you don't set him loose on your second level, which, as good as Nick Bolton's played lately, he doesn't have the wheels to contend with him. But even
Right.
Leo Chenal, who's speedier than he looks and has made plays against Lamar, I don't want to put that all on him too. Same thing with Drew Tranquil. You have to rush with the thought that you front four are going to contain Lamar unless you can just crush that pocket down on around him. And I think that's probably the best way to get something so that your guys on the back end get the chance to make the plays.
Well, and you make a great point. Like you go back to the loss against the Chargers, and I'm not going to blame it on the specific play, but Chris Jones crashes down inside and doesn't contain Justin Herbert. And while that play didn't cost them the game, it cost them a chance to have a chance to win the game. And that is going to be something you absolutely cannot do against Lamar Jackson. You can't crash inside. You have to keep contained. You have to keep him in the pocket because while he has the ability to beat you with his arm, it's not near what he will beat you if you let him get outside the pocket and let him get to the second level. And then you have your corners and your safeties trying to catch him too, because Lamar Jackson can burn you from 70 yards out if he gets the right angles.
Yeah. And if he does, he's going to let it loose. The Chiefs have to do the opposite as well. They have to stoke the fires of their own on the other side. And that means you got to run the ball a little bit more. You got to take what you have here. And I thought Juju Smith-Schuster's been playing well. Tyquan Thornton obviously stepping up big. A lot of talk about him this weekend about how he's been like grafting himself into the offense. Something that Mahomes talked about being even in the summer when they were just throwing on some high school field in Texas. It has to be a continued evolution. They have to continue to give him more looks and more looks, not just on those deep balls, but obviously that's what's moving the offense. It has to get to the point where there's evolution there. And the big thing that I want to see, especially against what are some dynamic safeties still for the Ravens. I won't say they're quite as at the top of the league as maybe they have in years past. But I want to see a little bit play off of that. Not just streaks, not just 9 routes. I need to see those deep overs. He needs to draw now after this success. Draw some of that coverage across the safety formation and pull some of those safeties to one side so somebody else can make some plays. I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully there's a couple of guys that will take advantage of it.
Well, and you look at what that could mean. I mean, if he's pulling some safeties and pulling some coverages, that could open up things in the middle of the field, should open up things for Travis Kelce, who is going to be needed big in this game. But it also goes not just to Travis Kelce. You have Noah Gray on this team who has shown that he can make plays. It doesn't have to be something where he goes for 100 yards. It could be 3 or 4 really great time plays to Noah Gray or a Bob Tunyon, who they still haven't really used in this offense, which doesn't make sense to me. And you start talking about the playmakers. And there's the one guy that we talked about with Matt on yesterday's show, Brashard Smith, needs to get involved. And it doesn't have to be a situation where he gets involved and has to be running the ball. He doesn't have to run the ball 10 or 15 times a game. Should he get 10 touches? Yeah, probably. Should he be on the field for 20, 30 snaps? Probably. You showed the ability to use him. Maybe ability is not the right word. You showed the willingness to use him on the field at the same time with Isaiah Pacheco. So to me, that means put him out there as a wide receiver where he lined up with Isaiah Pacheco at times, and they motioned him in. They did different things with him. Use him in that sense. Use him to try to see what kind of matchups you can get from him, because all it takes is 1 or 2 big plays, and he's going to put you in a position where you can at least score points, if not get a touchdown.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, is just do something that's unexpected. Keep pushing the envelope. I would like to see him get a few more touches in the run game, quite honestly, because one of the best plays the Chiefs had in their run game last week was a counter play that they hadn't done much, and it was about getting them to the edges. There's still ways to do that, even with rookie Smith. And at this point, a toss play in particular, a lateral for all intents and purposes, is the same as a pass for him. And given his hands and his ability to catch the ball, there's less concern there for me than there maybe has been in years past when you're trying to do that to Pacheco or anybody else, right? So why not use it? You got to make sure that you're expanding. And I know you don't want to give it away, Andy, but you got to make sure that you get yourself in a position to be 500.
So you're telling me that you want to see Andy try the triple option that the Detroit Lions ran against the Ravens?
I'll take an option. I don't need the triple. Just run the damn ball.
That I will say, that would be something to see that play run by another team against the Baltimore Ravens 2 weeks in a row. That would be quite something to see. But you look at this, and this offense needs to take a step forward. They have playmakers. While Juju isn't a playmaker he used to be when he was younger in his career, he has shown the ability to be Mahomes' safety blanket at times. Look at that huge play that he had in the middle of the field where he's just standing there all by himself, making himself open, looking right at his quarterback, saying, "Throw me the ball." That's all you got to do sometimes with some of these in some of these scenarios. They need to continue to use players and put them in positions to be helpful to this offense. And while we did talk about it yesterday, I think the offensive line is moving in the right direction. They're not quite there yet, but they're moving in the right direction, and it gives Mahomes the ability to get more time to open things up and try to find things going forward. I think that's huge for this offense. When we get back, we're going to talk about what players could Mahomes have available for this Ravens team coming up right after.
Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IHS Top Safety Plus pick awards than anyone else as of August 25. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. Like our players, we sweat every detail as well, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved.
Chiefs-Ravens, always a huge game, and this one is no different. And it actually becomes an even bigger game for both teams because they're both sitting at 1-2. Would not have guessed that when the season started, and now you're looking at a scenario where both teams feel like they're probably going to need to win, and the Ravens are chasing a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers who are playing very well. That is a little surprising as well. But you look at this game, you look at what Kansas City's offense has struggled with, and I do think that game against the Chargers where Xavier Worthy goes down, if he plays that entire game, I think the outcome is different. And I also think that they could be 3-0 at this point. I do think he makes that big of a difference in their offense because of what he can do, and it's not just his speed It can also be all the different things that he can do on the field in the different wide receiver positions. But when you look at what it could mean for him this week, it's not going to be, if he does play, he's not going to be the same player that he was. But do you think he's available, and what could he give them?
I don't know that he's available. I know everybody wants to hope, and we have to see him practice. Obviously, we did see that some last week, but we have to see how he practices, because we don't know the severity of the injury. We don't know the details of it, and that will tell you a lot about whether the precaution to not allow him to get hit again is so overwhelming that they don't play him yet again. I think caution is deserved here. This is an injury that, should it reoccur and become more drastic, that affects you for the rest of your career too. It's not just a single season thing. It's not a broken bone that heals and you're back to normal, quote unquote. It does affect your range of motion and how you use your limbs. I think it's important. And I don't think, after reviewing Ravens from last week against the Detroit Lions, I don't know that you have to have him. Some of the worst grades in the NFL last week were Malachi Starks, Kyle Hamilton, and Marlon Humphrey in coverage. All of them combined stopped exactly one pass. One pass that was thrown their way that didn't get completed. That's all I need. I don't have to have all the home runs. I don't have to have everything. I do want the deep balls, Taekwon. Don't go away. I'm just saying, like, you don't have to have that. If they play like they played now, you are going to have the opportunity to move the ball. You're going to have the opportunity to get first downs, control the game a little bit, and still put points on the board. Now, that is a little bit atypical for that secondary to perform that poorly, but you don't know if they have it fixed. So when your highest graded players are on temporary, part-time players, I think the highest graded corner turned out to be TJ Tampa and Woozy. Nate Wiggins played well as well, for a combined 65 plays. So there's 3 other positions that you can attack. Go do that. Both the safeties gave up a lot of plays last week. I think there's room in there. I'm more excited, to tell you the truth, about getting the rookie back. I think Jalen Royals is A, not as much of a risk for an injury. B, has the physicality to go against all those 3 players, the 2 safeties, Starks and Hamilton, and Marlon Humphrey, who is known for being a physical corner. At his age, I'm not sure that's true anymore. But I'm more excited to see Royals get into the offense and get those things like you just mentioned. When Taekwon's going deep and Juju's over here and Hollywood's doing this, who's left? Well, it's going to be the rookie, and I'm excited to see it.
Well, and you talk about the rookie, and it's a question of what type of wide receiver is he going to be in this offense? What are they going to use him as? What are their plans for him? Because he did a lot of different things in training camp. He's not the same type of wide receiver that Xavier Worthy is. He's more of, and I'm not even going to say he's a Rashee Rice type, but he is closer to a Rashee Rice type wide receiver than he is Xavier Worthy. So I do think that gives you a little bit of what you've been missing in that, in the ability to get some of that yak stuff, that yak yardage that you've been missing with Rashee Rice not able to play. But I also think that the bigger person that is going to make a huge difference in this game, because I think this game is going to mean a lot to him, is going to be Hollywood Brown. And you look at what he did week 1, had all those catches, had all those targets. Week 2, kind of a little bit quiet. Week 3, very quiet. He did do some things, and he had a play that got them points at the end of the first half with that big, pass interference penalty. But playing against his old team, playing against the Baltimore Ravens, I think this is a big game for Hollywood Brown. And I do think that Andy Reid is going to look at that and say, okay, let's feed Hollywood. Let's use him to what he can do best. And he doesn't have to be the deep ball threat, because you have that in Tyquan Thornton, but you can still use him as a deep ball threat, and you can try to hit him on a deep ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen Patrick do that before. And I like it, and you're absolutely right. Andy has a tendency to try to feed the guys that have a personal connection to the game. I won't call it a gripe, because I don't know how Hollywood feels about the Ravens, but having played there before, Andy likes to kind of play on those emotional things to get not just that player up, but the rest of the team up. And they're going to need it, because there are things that they have to be concerned about. One of them is Kingsley Suamataia. He's going to have a tough matchup. They're going to have guys coming at him. And where he is right now, I think, is something you have to be concerned about. always going to come off the edge. Okay, that's fine. I think the tackles, as long as they start to play correctly and not early, I think they're going to be okay.
And are on the line of scrimmage.
Nicest way that I can put it. But Travis Jones is on a tear, played really well, got 4 pressures last week. John Jenkins came in and helped him out and replaced him as well at the same position. They line up mostly on the right-hand side of the defensive formation, right over Kingsley. So it's going to be about, instead of what I would normally say is more about the guard and the tackle in Kingsley and Josh, now it's going to be about Creed and Kingsley and trying to get those doubles and trying to stop that fulcrum in the middle of the Ravens defense.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say is just watching Kingsley play, I think it's he's still progressing in the right direction. Don't get me wrong, he still has bad plays, but he's progressing in the right direction. He's going to have some things that he's still going to miss. You're not going to have a Joe Tooney. We've said that plenty of times this year, but I do think he's progressing in the right direction. And when you start making that type of scenario happen, then you get to a situation where you look at what Patrick Mahomes had. He had several times in the pocket against the Giants, who I feel have better pass rushers than the Ravens do. He had several instances where he was in the pocket 6, 7, 8 seconds, even one that was over 11. And that is something that we wouldn't have thought was even possible last season. And yeah, he moved around a lot and he danced around, and I get all that. But just being able to have that type of time at any point, he wasn't getting hit quickly on most plays. And I think when the line continues to go moving forward, you're going to be able to see better plays to a Tyquan Thornton and better plays to Hollywood Brown down the field. And maybe even in this game, a play down the field to Jalen Royals, because he has the ability to do that as well.
Yeah, they all do. I mean, I'm interested to see it. Now, we're also going to get the view from the other side. We're going to talk to the Ravens host tomorrow on the crossover. Do not miss that, because the number one thing at the end of the day is about stopping Lamar Jackson. I think they can handle it. We'll tell you why next. The NFL season is on us, and FanDuel is making sure that you're getting ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it's all in one place, and the app is super simple to get after. Whether I want to do something ahead of time, put together a parlay, or whatever I'm looking for, jumping in live is even an option. It makes life one-stop shopping to get into the action. So if you're ready and you are ready to play, get in there, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. And that's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet to get that 300 bonus bets. Check it out at FanDuel.com.
Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, always going to be a good game, and this isn't going to be any different. The defense has the ability to slow down Lamar Jackson. The question is, can they get it done? I think we talked about this kind of in the start. They have to contain him. If they do that, it becomes a matter of, can you get pressure at times? That's going to be a big deal in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And it comes back to how you approach it. I think actually the way the Chiefs have generally approached stopping the combination of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson works. We've seen that from going back to Frank Clark. Like, they understand what they have. It's about executing that plan, because the plan has worked multiple times. I'm just double checking here. 70 yards rushing against Buffalo in week 1 for Lamar Jackson, then 13 on 2 carries and 35 on 7 carries, like down to a 5-yard average. It will work. It can work. You have to be disciplined, and you have to have the X factor. I don't know if they really want to dedicate a spy. If they do, I think it could be Chamari Connor. I think it could be Jaden Hicks. I think both those guys have different aspects that will allow them to perform that well. What I am certain of is, if you get stuck and you're having to spy with Leo Chanel or Drew Tranquill, it's still a mismatch for Lamar. And you have to make sure that the defensive front maintains those lanes. So if there is an escape angle, it's singular. And that spy is right there to be taking advantage of that when Lamar tries to escape. But the defense has been, I think, getting better at making sure that it wraps up, that the tackles are clean. As long as that continues, they're going to be okay against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and I'm going to be curious as to if they do use a spy, who they use, because you're right. If it's Tranquil or Chanel, it's a little bit more of an issue. If you try to use a guy like Jayden Hicks or Chamari Connor, and I actually really like the thought process of using Chamari Connor in that role because he has a little bit more speed than Hicks does.
Mhm.
Although Hicks plays downhill very well, I do think that it would be a scenario where if you have Connor being the spy, you have Hicks and Cook on the field, or Hicks and CRW, or whoever you're going to have as your safeties back there doing whatever they're going to do. I do like this scenario of using a safety as a spy because it gives you a little bit more speed and you're not going to be chasing as bad from behind, I think, with a linebacker. The question I have when you look at this game and what it's going to mean for Lamar Jackson and where Kansas City hasn't been exposed the first couple of weeks, which has been interesting to me because the thing that they've always struggled with is the tight end. And we haven't really seen that being a huge Achilles heel. Yeah, they've had some plays that have gone against them against tight ends, but it hasn't been what it has been in the past. Now, part of that's probably who they've played, and they're going to have a very big test this week.
Yeah, no way around that. So how do you augment in trying to make that game plan work? I think you got to keep the defensive front fresh. I think you want to get to some of your more athletic bodies. Obviously, the absence of Mike Dana changes a couple of things, but I think Ashton Shalati has to play more. Came in very early last week, as Matt pointed out yesterday. And I think you got to see a little bit more of that, but that's a two-edged sword. He's a little bit more athletic than Charles Omenihu. He was, especially laterally. To your point, Chamari, I think, is a little bit better to defend when he wants to get horizontal. When Lamar wants to escape laterally, that's where you get in trouble, right? So being able to man that effectively comes down to the front. And I think Charles is not quite as adept laterally as Gelati is, but then you have the inexperience factor. So it all comes back to that. The real question is, what do they do if you overplay it? Like, you can spread it out, overplay the edges so that you have extreme contain. And then what does that leave him? Does it leave him escape pass up the middle, or does it just leave him bigger windows to throw to on secondary looks to some of his crossing route receivers?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And you start looking at him running through the middle of the field isn't any better than him running on the outside of the field. So you have to make sure that you have your lanes taken care of, and the spy is going to be able to get him down. I'm not going to care if he goes and he runs for 2 or 3 first downs against the Chiefs just throughout the entire game. It's going to happen. He's going to have some rushes. That's just the way it's going to be, especially when you have Derrick Henry in the backfield with him, because then you're in a scenario where play action is going to be a problem and people are going to be coming downhill trying to tackle Derrick Henry, and maybe they roll Lamar Jackson out and he gets a first down with his legs that way. I mean, there's lots of different ways that they can use him. This is a difficult task for this defense, but the one thing that they have going for them that I didn't expect is, generally speaking, this defense has been very slow to get going, and it's been something where they build and they build and they build, and the second half of the season they're usually much better than they are the first half. After week 1, this defense has played, I'm not going to say perfectly, but they've played pretty close to lights out. And yeah, they played against a bad team against the Giants. I get that, but they got 2 takeaways, which they hadn't got any takeaways at all this season so far. That needs to continue. Lamar Jackson has shown that he has the ability, or he has in the past given up the ball against Kansas City. They need to force that again this week. But the other question that I have is, can this defense continue to show that they are really going to continue taking steps forward? Because the game against the Eagles was pretty good as well, against a very good offense that hasn't quite shown it for the Eagles yet this season. But they need to be able to stop Lamar Jackson. They need to be able to keep this game close, because offensively, I don't think that their offense is there yet. Are they capable of putting up 28 points? Not the way that they played so far.
That's the hard part. And I like your point. The defense has been able to accomplish its goals. Slowed Saquon Barkley. It took away Malik Neighbors. Defending Lamar's always job one, but you got to have a secondary that we're going to give you all the matchups and everything you need to know on the Friday show. Don't miss that, as well as our crossover tomorrow. But the other thing that you got to make sure of is that it's not like a Zay Flowers situation where L'Jarius Sneed has to literally bat it away from him at the last second in order to prevent a score that changes your whole season, right? So you just have to be prepared for that. And the game plan is going to be very specific about what they take away from Lamar. When you look at targets, it's been up and down. And I think that for Lamar Jackson in particular, what he wants to do and what he's able to do must be different things.
Yeah. And it's going to be curious because they have tight ends that can really hurt you. They have Zay Flowers. They do have weapons. I don't think they're as good as what Kansas City has faced from some of the teams that they've already faced. So I do feel that they have the ability to slow them down. But can you slow them down and stop Derrick Henry at the same time? Because that is a much bigger task. The Chiefs haven't faced a running game like that with the weapons. In my opinion, Jalen Hurts is good, but I don't think he's on the same level as Lamar Jackson. And Saquon Barkley is good, but it's a different type of running game that they'll be going up against with Derrick Henry this week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a different beast altogether. So we're going to have a lot for you. Don't miss the crossover tomorrow with Kevin. We'll be back to preview the game and give you all the matchups you need to know, as well as our predictions on Friday, like we always do. We appreciate you guys being with us. Make sure that you're an everydayer and you're subscribed as well. We appreciate you guys the most. And if you want that text line, 816-357-8781. Thanks for being with us today, and we will talk to you tomorrow.